that we would have come forward. And quite frankly, to your point about Ms. Wilson-Raybould, she can't speak. My colleagues here know that she can't speak about her time as being the former Attorney General. And she has invoked solicitor-client privilege, and she has one of the best lawyers in the land advising her. So to have her come before this committee would be to invite her to speak about things that she simply cannot talk about. And so I think it's important for Canadians to understand that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Paulus.
Mr. Paulus. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd just like to point out that my colleague said that we are engaged in a witch hunt, but I would like to say that truth rises above any partisanship, and therefore there's no witch hunt on our part. And this story actually came out in the Globe and Mail, and since then, other things have happened over the course of the days. Now, the motion from the Liberals suggests 3 witnesses. I'd like to know who suggested that they come and testify. Now, I'd also like to point out that we're in a country under the rule of law. This is a very, very worrisome situation for all Canadians and all those who are listening to us. This has to do with influence from the PMO on the former Attorney General. Now, we had a motion that was ready, that was brought forward to the committee, and then through various procedures, the Liberals have come forward with a motion that we're now discussing. But in fact, what we're getting is sort of a class, a law class here. You know, I'd like to thank my NDP member who explained what the Shawcross Doctrine is, but we don't actually need a course in legal affairs. I think that we're the Justice Committee, and what we need to do is get to the heart of the issue. And we need to go through proper procedure. But what the Liberals are doing right now is just proof that they're engaged in a cover-up themselves. And what we want to do on our side is shed light on a situation that was actually disclosed by the Globe and Mail and which has just been evolving and developing over the course of the past few days. Now, there is a motion brought forward by the Conservatives, supported by the NDP, and I think that's what we should be discussing and voting on in the interests of all Canadians. Thank you very much. And just so that everybody understands, there are more Conservatives here than normal because there were 2 invited members who have a right to be here and have a right to speak, but it's not that there are 5 Conservative members of the committee. There are actually 3. But they have the right to speak, and we'll also give the floor to Mr. Fortin if he wishes to speak. Ms. Khalid.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to clarify to Mr. Cullen's point. I really appreciate his comments, and I do want to clarify that when I said nothing, I did mean nothing substantiated. You know, we are basing all of this on recent events, and I'm sure that events will change. And you know, quite honestly, we've had a really good interaction with all colleagues on this committee, and I look forward to discussing the complete membership, the complete witness list with the permanent members of the committee. That includes Murray Rankin and Dave McKenzie and Mr. Barrett, as you're here today, and Mr. Cooper. I think that'll be a very healthy exercise in democracy, and Canadians do need to know what the nature of that relationship is that this motion is addressing. You know, I hope that, or I can understand that the Conservatives must have gotten their sound bites out today, and that's really what it seems like their objective is in understanding why they're here. I mean, the objective of this committee is to get to a conclusion as to what Canadians are looking for, which is a clarification and an understanding as to the nature of the relationship between these 2 bodies. As I said before, the list that is of witnesses that is proposed in the motion is not a complete list. It is the motion clearly says, and that witnesses list include but not limited to. And I think that that my colleagues across the way need to really understand and appreciate that. We're hoping that we can have a more robust discussion, as is regular committee business, in camera to discuss the full list of witnesses for this proposed study. And I do want to clarify for Mr. Cullen that the role of our committee is not investigative. we really don't have the tools, or it's really not the scope of what our committee does. We study issues that are important to Canadians. We study bills and propose and really study the impact of those bills and legislation to Canadians. But we are not here to look into what basically the Ethics Commissioner has now undertaken to do. We're not here to replace what the Ethics Commissioner will do. We are here to provide an understanding and a clarification to Canadians as to what the nature of the role is between the Attorney General and the Prime Minister's office and cabinet colleagues in general. And really, I hope that my colleagues across the way will support this motion, which is really a non-partisan version of the motion that the Conservatives have proposed. It is really the bare bones and substance of what everybody around the table and all of Canada really wants, is that clarification as to the role between how government functions and how decisions are made.